There's a moment that happens during almost every big game. The entire room explodes. People are yelling, jumping off the couch, hugging like they just survived something life-threatening. Someone spills a drink. Someone else is already arguing with the referee on the screen. And then there's you. You're just standing there, completely calm, watching the chaos like it's some kind of social experiment. And people always assume the same thing. They think you're boring. They think you don't understand the game. They think you secretly wish you could care as much as everyone else in the room. But here's the strange part. Psychologists have found that people who feel almost nothing watching sports often process competition, identity, and reward very differently from the average fan. In other words, you're not missing something. You might just be built to play a completely different game. Let's be honest. The hardest part isn't the game itself. It's the Monday morning kitchen stand-up at the office. Dave from accounting is practically vibrating because his team made the playoffs, and you're standing by the microwave desperately trying to construct a socially acceptable nod so you don't look like an alien. Society frames this as your deficit. They think you just haven't found the right team yet. They think if someone just explains the offside rule to you one more time with enough enthusiasm, the switch will flip. It won't. You don't need the rules explained. You understand the rules perfectly. You just reject the premise. And there's a massive physiological reason why. It starts with how you handle the concept of us. A 2019 behavioral study looking at people with low sports interest found something incredibly validating. People who don't care about sports consistently show significantly lower levels of us versus them thinking. Your brain simply doesn't rely on tribalism to establish its identity. For thousands of years, humans survived by merging their identity with a tribe. Sports are just the modern, socially acceptable version of that ancient survival mechanic. When a fan watches their team, their brain floods with oxytocin. That's the exact same bonding hormone that makes you love your own family. It's a biological trick. You just happen to be immune to the trick. But here's the twist that actually makes the sports fanatics look a little more vulnerable than you. When you sit on a bar stool holding a club soda, watching your friends physically tense up as a guy lines up a free throw, you're watching a real-time behavioral addiction loop. See, the fanatic's brain isn't just watching a game, it's hunting for dopamine. Research from the University of Chicago looking at competitive spectator activities shows that sports fandom triggers the exact same neurological reward centers as a slot machine. It's an intermittent reward schedule. The uncertainty of the win is what keeps them hostage to the screen. Your dopamine system just requires higher stakes. Your brain looks at a screen showing millionaires playing a game in a city you don't even live in and says, "Why would I spend my energy on this?" You optimize for autonomy. You demand a real, tangible return on your emotional investment. Honestly, it still frustrates me sometimes. I still don't fully get why it's completely fine for a grown adult to openly weep in public because a teenager dropped a piece of leather. But if you show that same level of emotion about a book or a personal project, people look at you like you're unstable. The social permission granted to sports fans is wild. But it gets even weirder when you look at the pronouns. Listen to how they talk. When the team wins, they say, "we won." When the team loses, it's "we got robbed." They've completely blurred the boundary between their own self-worth and the actions of total strangers. Psychologists literally call this basking in reflected glory. You don't do that. You maintain a tightly bounded self-concept. You don't outsource your victories to people who don't know your name. You choose to carry the weight of your own wins and your own losses. Yeah, I know. It sounds like a flawless, evolved way to live. But let's push back on that for a second. Holding on to your autonomy that tightly is exhausting. Sometimes it would actually be a relief to just hand your emotional state over to a referee. Sometimes it would be nice to have a guaranteed, built-in community of strangers who will instantly hug you just because you're wearing the same color hat. You trade easy belonging for emotional sovereignty, and that trade isolates you. You've probably had that moment sitting in the passenger seat of a car while the driver aggressively yells at the sports talk radio host. You look out the window, watching the streetlights pass, and you just feel this profound quiet. You're in the same car, but you're living in a completely different universe. That quiet isn't emptiness, it's a different kind of allocation. Because here's the part society refuses to admit about you. They think you don't have passion. But a 2021 study on empathy allocation and openness to experience found that people who don't care about sports actually score incredibly high in emotional depth. You just direct your empathy toward different things. Your brain is seeking the exact same reward, the exact same meaning, the exact same transcendence. You just find it in art, in a complicated conversation, in a quiet, hyper-focused creative state. You invest in parasocial relationships, where actually, no, you invest in direct relationships. You put your energy where there's actual reciprocity, where your care actually influences the outcome.
Let's expand on that Sunday afternoon reality. You're sitting on the edge of a friend's couch. There's a half-eaten bowl of chips on the coffee table. The TV is turned up so loud you can hear the commentators taking a breath. Your friend is pacing the floor, chewing his fingernails, actively stressed about a clock ticking down on the screen. You look at him, and then you look at your phone. You have this sudden, stark realization. His reality is currently dictated by a screen, and yours is entirely your own. That's what people get wrong about your apathy. Apathy in this context isn't a lack of feeling, it's a highly protective boundary. You're deeply aware of how much energy it takes to navigate real life, your real job, your real family, your real problems. Why would you voluntarily manufacture fake stress for entertainment? There is a quiet radicalism to just refusing the distraction. Look, society is always going to reward the loudest, most visible forms of passion. It's easy to understand a guy painting his face green and taking his shirt off in freezing weather. It's much harder to understand the person who finds their deepest meaning in absolute silence, working on something nobody else will ever see. You don't hate sports. You just refuse to play a game where you aren't actually on the field. So tomorrow morning, when you're standing by the office microwave trying to construct that socially acceptable nod while Dave from accounting loses his mind over a playoff bracket, remember something. You're not the one who's broken. You're not the one lacking passion or depth. It's actually exhausting to hold on to your autonomy that tightly in a world that constantly begs you to merge with the crowd. But you're playing a different game, one where you only invest your emotional energy in things that can actually love you back. You protect your peace, and you don't apologize for it. So here's the real question. Do you find it exhausting pretending to care to keep the peace? Or have you completely stopped faking it? Let me know your reality. Subscribe if you're done playing their game.